Hello and good morning. I think we're live. Just in case it just started. Good morning again. My name is Jess. I'm the youth coordinator for the National Women's Martial Arts Federation and thus a member of the board. Having a little bit of technical difficulties this morning, so if I just randomly shut down, my apologies. I'll try and get on as soon as possible. And I'll also try and follow your comments and questions as best as I can. So today I'm going to be talking about a little bit about my history in martial arts, how I got to martial arts, and thus leading to my love for the NWMAF and some fun experience I like to reminisce about with you today. And then I'm going to be talking about the youth program and an exciting announcement that we as the board would like to let you members know. So like I said, my name is Jess. My pronouns that I prefer are she, her. I am from Ontario, Canada, and like in Canadian fashion, last night we had quite a bit of snow. So the outside is painted white. So I started martial arts when I was about 6 years old. I started in Shaolin Kempo Karate, where my parents signed me up after I showed a lot of interest in martial arts movies. They let me see movies probably well past my age appropriateness, but I fell in love with Jackie Chan movies, Bruce Lee, Jet Li, even the Disney movie Mulan really captured my interest. So when I joined martial arts, Shaolin Kempo Karate, it's a I think newer martial arts than most. I believe it was created in the 1960s, but it really gave me the opportunity to try many different aspects of martial arts. So that it's a stand-up fighting aspect, ground aspect, takedowns, strikes, that type of thing. There I was able to transition into teaching. So once I was in about grade 6, I was given the opportunity to volunteer at my dojo and teach the kids' classes, the younger kids' classes before I would start my class. It's where I learned many different types of teaching skills, and also saw how students really look up to instructors, and no matter what the age of the instructor was, the kids, they didn't discriminate. Then I was about 15. I was in grade 9 when I went for my black belt test. And the tournament that year was a big tournament for me because after you get your black belt, you're at that first dojo, there wasn't really much you could do after your first degree. The instructor wasn't able to test you for any degrees past that. So you became really one of the higher instructors. And so that tournament for me went to go break boards, and I saw a little boy that I hadn't realized idolized me as much as I thought he did. I always really focused on the girls because there wasn't really any girl instructors that were consistent when I was growing up. So I forget how many boards, but I broke the most amount of boards, even out of but out of all the instructors, me being the only woman. And that little boy was so happy. So that was one memory I'd like to reminisce with you about. From Shaolin Kempo Karate, I went to the Rudokan Club for Judo in Keswick, Ontario. Unfortunately, they've closed now due to COVID. But they offered the opportunity for me to see for the first time women in a bigger leadership role in martial arts. Liz Roach Sensei, she's passed now, but she was a real big influence for me. She trained with uh, Shihan Kiko Fukuda, um, and she talked about her experience as a woman in the martial arts and in judo with me, and I think that's when I started to really focus on being a woman in the martial arts world, because when you're a kid, at least I didn't really focus on it. I didn't see a difference between my male classmates or men classmates and myself. So it was really interesting to see that there's women specific conferences. So I went to a women judo camp or training tournament. So it was just women that got to compete against each other. So it was really empowering to have that. Unfortunately, or not unfortunately, I had to move for university. So I moved to North Bay, Ontario to attend Nipissing University. And with that, my roommates had told me about a dojo they had seen on the bus when they were coming back from down in the town. And that's where I found Three Fires Martial Arts Academy. So Three Fires Martial Arts Academy is a not-for-profit organization. And they have offered me an endless amount of opportunities. It is where Daryl Cucci is the chief instructor, but the head instructor is Francesca Morabito, one of my best friends. When I met her, we just instantly connected. We went together to our first conference together. We've done road trips. She was one of my bridesmaids, so it's very touching connection to have another woman in the martial arts to talk about not just martial arts stuff with, but so much more. So when I first joined Three Fires Martial Arts Academy, I kind of wanted to sneak in. I had a black belt, but I didn't think it had anything to do with the dojo that I was joining. I saw they had Shotokan karate and they had Nin Kun Kung Fu, and I didn't see the connection, but their Kung Fu had the same amount of animals and the exact same animals that I had studied in Shaolin Kempo Karate. But because I had written that I did have experience on the application form, they found out. And they, Daryl Cucci, Shihan but he offered an opportunity to be able to continue in my degrees. So I learned Kempo, which is in the CKK, the Canadian Karate Kung Fu Association. They have taken Shotokan Karate, Nin Kun Kung Fu, and our Sigang has made it Kempo. So now I have a 4th degree black belt in Kempo, or Shotokan Karate, and Nin Kun Kung Fu, which is 5-form fist Kung Fu. I've been able to develop programs for youth. I got to run the youth Kung Fu program at Three Fires, where I was able to make connections with so many youth and help them through their martial arts journey and through their struggles. We created an anime club, which is super fun. But overall, they really gave me the opportunity to grow myself in teaching, learning new techniques, and making those connections. So one other person, not one other, there are so many at Three Fires that are a huge part of my life, but Karen Gray, who some of you might have met at the NWMAF, introduced me and Francesca to the conference. So she had said, oh, this summer you should come to the conference that's running in Oberlin, Ohio. And this conference, run by women, sounded fantastic. So Francesca and I drove down together, and we were following Karen and Heather and Patty. And I think Nora met us there. But if you remember the 2012 conference, you remember a small, rather strong group of Canadians that came down that year. And Francesca and I have tons of stories from road trips that I could share with you another time. But we had a lot of fun specifically that year because there was construction right after the border. And so we had been following Karen and Heather and Patty, but then we had been stopped at the border, and we thought we'd catch up, and we get there and there's construction, and obviously we took the wrong route, so it added about 3 hours onto our drive. But once we got to the campus, we saw all these women walking around. We found the registration table. We were greeted so warm-heartedly. I forget who was on the board that year, but since 2012, every conference that I've been to, I find it's not, you don't remember the whole conference necessarily, but there's very magical experiences that happen at the conference that just stick with you that you didn't expect. So you expect to remember content from classes, valuable content from classes that can help you with your business or with the class you're teaching or just with a personal journey. My favorite memories from camp always seem to be inclusive of my interactions with the instructor, not necessarily outside of class, and interactions with other campers or with other conference members, as well as, what is the word? Those just magical experiences you get outside of class. So for instance, Wendy Dragonfire and I met at the 2012 Oberlin, Ohio conference. She was a huge part in why I continued to go to the conference, and a huge part in healing from an abusive relationship I had from high school to university. And so the class that we had, I believe, first connected in was, I could look it up, I have my training book here, but it was about skits. And she was looking for ideas from the class to talk about, well, in this situation, what could I do? And so I was trying to think of ideas on situations to offer for skits. And so I used one from my personal experience. And so I told her that this had happened to me and this is what happened. What should I have done? And she stopped the class and she said that whenever it comes to an experience that you've already had happen to you, the important thing is to focus on is that you got out of that situation. So really think positively on that versus thinking about, well, what should I have done? So that was really empowering for me to help me move on and have this guilt on thinking that I did something wrong. And then after that, we went, and this is the most happy memory, is that we went and we explored the town and found this singing bowl shop, and that they had beads and all these other magical scarves and stuff. But the singing bowls, I love singing bowls, and we found hundreds of them. And Wendy Dragonfire knows a lot about singing bowls, and she talked about them, and we played with them, and even though that wasn't conference specific, it's a memory that we get to share with the fellow people that go to the conference and those connections that you make. And unfortunately, me being from Canada, and I believe Wendy lives in the Netherlands, we wouldn't be able to have that opportunity if it wasn't for coming together with a common interest like the conference. So after the conference, Francesca and I started a personal self-defense program in North Bay. And every year, the drive home was one of the most fun experiences as well. But you're just, there's so many creative juices going. You're talking about all the things you learned and how you can apply them, and now you got new ideas and all of that. That is camp. It's not just sitting in a classroom, maybe listening to this amazing instructor that's talking to you, but there's all these experiences that we don't really, isn't really talked about all that much. I'd like to share with you past camp booklets because I found them last night and reminisce so hard. So this is the first one that I went to. And it's great to keep these because you leaf through them and you see everyone's faces and you don't remember necessarily, oh, that was the conference that happened. Another big thing about the conference that Francesca and I have kind of a tradition with is whenever the conference is coming up, usually the schedule is put out on the website now. I'm not sure if that happened back in 2012, but once we get our booklets, or once we print off those sheets, that's when we go to town. We have a coffee together and we talk about, oh, this class sounds interesting. Oh, did you read this class? Oh, and then we start highlighting all of them and realizing that we can't, go to all of them, which is sad, but then we just decided we're going to divide and conquer. Okay, so this one will be good for our self-defense class, but this one will be good for our kung fu classes. Okay, let's split up, come back, and we'll talk about it. So there's lots of neat little tricks you can do with friends and co-instructors to be able to cover more ground. Because the conference really does offer you the opportunity to want to go to more than you physically can, which is a great issue to have, I think. So before I go into the youth program, I'd like to remind you that there is a poll. We have a poll going on to see if you would like, or if you would go. I know we all want an in-person one, but if you would feel safe enough to do a in-person conference. And the in-person one will be a hybrid, so we will be running virtual classes as well as in-person, or a fully virtual conference. So if you're able to take that poll, if you're unable to find it, then please just let one of us know. You can send an email to any of us or just post on our page, and we'll make sure that happens. So with the youth program, we have a lot of exciting things happening and a lot of exciting changes happening this year in 2021. We have had a program that has thrived on being youth-led. Not all the time, but I'm going through the booklets and remembering that in 2012 there was Destiny Arts. So they had an adult instructor come from their school to run the courses. But there's also youth involved. So we really want to still include that. We really want the youth program to be have youth involved. So to do that, we're setting up a committee to hopefully include youth from multiple dojo. So who's ever interested will have posters and an application process. I don't want to put a limit on age in terms of the youngest. It's more of experience that I'm going to be, and that we're going to be looking for. So if you're 17 and under and you're interested to involve yourself with this women-led organization, that would be great. Another thing that the board has voted on and has passed, which has been awesome, is that we are transitioning the youth program to being gender inclusive, which is an amazing opportunity for us to be able to bring down barriers for youth that might not have the opportunity to be themselves at home and be true to themselves and be able to attend the conference. It also allows us the opportunity to offer single parents the opportunity to bring their kids and not worry about necessarily like childcare at home before coming in. So you're welcome to bring your children. They'll have a camp or a conference to go to, and then you can sit back, relax at your conference. Yeah, I think that's all that I'll talk about this morning. I admittedly turned on my laptop this morning and all my notes were deleted. So It's me winging it. Other camp notes I found. I don't know if anyone remembers the 2013 camp. I think that was the first one in Naperville. The 14, that was the first camp I got to teach at. I taught a singing bowls workshop. And our last camp that we were able to go to was the 2018 conference. Actually, embarrassing enough, I have not talked about my husband, which, like, as a woman, I shouldn't have to talk about my husband. I did meet my husband at Three Fires Martial Arts Academy. He was in the Kung Fu class as well. He had taken karate previously in high school, but he was also running a Hapkido class. And one of my passions in martial arts is grappling, and the Kung Fu and the karate classes did not include their stand-up art. They didn't include grappling. So I joined the Hapkido class, and we spent more time together, and one thing led to another. We got married at the dojo. We took our pregnancy bump photos at the dojo. We raised our, well, not even a week after giving birth, we were back at the dojo. Oh, and the night that I had given birth, we were at the dojo. So our daughter has been very highly involved in the martial arts. The youth that we mentored and continue to mentor from afar really love our daughter. Our daughter can use some weapons, which you wouldn't expect from a 2-year-old, but when you put them in that environment, it's definitely awesome. But the 2018 conference was the first conference that my husband came with me, and Francesca and our daughter came. And this was a really cool experience for us as a family to see how my husband could be there as more so a caregiver until Super Saturday. But so at the instructor meeting, I sat down and I waited for my turn to talk about who I was and my courses. And I said, I just want to let you know that there is a bald man with a ginger beard walking around, and if he's in a place he shouldn't be, just let him know. He doesn't know where he's going. And he met so many friends that he still talks about at the conference. Jay and Sue and Nikki, and I'm sure many more that were just so kind to him, and knowing that he's just who he is. If you see pictures of a baby going around on the website or anything, that's probably mine. She'll be wearing a little origami hat, which is super cute. So I guess what I'm getting at is that this conference really showed me, the 2018 one, and my experience for that really showed me how families can get involved at the conference, really firsthand. I'd seen other women with children, and I'd seen a couple other men in the background. But if you want to come to the conference and your kids are into martial arts, I just want you to know that there's so much that there is offered for both, for youth and for adult participants. If your spouse needs to come for the main part of the conference, we can work with it. We have put signs up at the conference before. The board has been willing, like with my husband, to say, no, you can't go over there right now. That's a women-only space. So if you have any questions about how we can be more inclusive with your family, I really urge you to ask those questions, because that's one of my main concerns, is making sure families, parents and youth feel welcome at the conference and within the organization. Well, I hope you all have a great day, and hopefully you can spend some time today reminiscing on at least one memory at the conference. Anyway,